delay, Chair is happy to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Tuesday, March 5, 2024, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll. And remember, we have trustees electronically joining.
Trustee Burke.
Here.
Trustee Hayes. Trustee Perkins. Here. Trustee Schauer.
Here.
Trustee Schaumoser.
Here.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Here.
And President Richardson.
Here, thank you. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item 4 this evening, under 4A, is approval of the minutes from our meeting last month, February 15, 2024. Are there any questions or recommended edits for the village clerk on the minutes? There being none, Chair would like a motion to approve agenda item 4A, minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting February 15, 2024. May I have that motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Van Ryn. May I please have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Schaumoser. Thank you both. And I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Burke.
Say it again.
Yes, sorry, I was muted, sorry.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schauer.
Abstain, I wasn't present.
Trustee Schaumoser.
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
And President Richardson.
Yes, Chair would like unanimous consent that the record remain open for a period of 5 business or calendar days for purposes of any necessary technical and conforming amendments without objection, so ordered. Agenda item 5, President's remarks. I think we have some guests. So please come up and introduce yourself and welcome.
If you could push the button.
There's a middle button that will...
All right. Yes, my name is Brian Thompson. This is my wife, Karen. And then this is Matt LaSousa.
Hi, I'm their attorney, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let them present. We hear from attorneys all too often. If you have questions, I'm here and available.
And also tonight, we do have our son, Colin, who's with us. So, just a little bit of background about us. We've been living the last 25 years in North Barrington. Both of our sons went through the Barrington school districts and on to Iowa State, where we also both graduated from Iowa State with horticulture degrees. And Colin has a, I'm going to get it wrong, construction engineering degree. So, and currently works for Pepper Construction.
You have to be careful. We have a trustee from the other team.
No, I'm an Iowa State student.
Okay. Husband. Got it. That's the mixed marriage.
That's too bad. So.
You don't feel bad. I'm a Hawkeye.
I know. There you go.
Our background is in horticulture, where we both have worked in the field for the last 25 years since we've been in the area. And
and then go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
In 2016, we started Honey Lake Bee Company, and then it's grown quite quickly over the years, and we have about 130 beehives in this area. Give you an idea how big that is. In the state of Illinois, there's about 35 beekeepers who have 130 hives or more. So we're one of 35 beekeepers in the state of Illinois that have that many hives. Some have thousands, but there's not that many of us, believe it or not.
A lot of hobbyists. In Lake County, there's a lot, especially.
Most of our beehives are located in North Barrington, Lake Barrington, Barrington Hills, and Lake Zurich. So we specialize in products that are very natural, local, things like that. Karen put together a little thing. It's not just honey, but all sorts of different products that come from the beehives. That's kind of our niche. Yeah, so it's a lot of soaps to candles to salves and things like that. So it's all natural, local products. This has become our full-time job. We used to, again, we were in the horticulture industry, and now it's our full-time job. And possibly Colin may even join us down the road, so.
He has helped us, we should say that. He
Yeah.
has worked for us quite a bit, so.
Most of our retail right now is from online and also then doing farmers markets. We do 5 farmers markets in the area, but that's basically, and then we do it out of our home. And we're starting to outgrow that. So we've been looking for a place to grow into. And that's where the property on Roberts Road came along. Pepper Road. Roberts Road, oh, I said Roberts.
Yep.
Pepper Road,
Yeah.
thank you. So we really like the property on Pepper Road for a few reasons. One is located close to us. It has a beautiful setting, and we plan on using our horticultural background to help actually beautify the property more with butterfly and bee gardens and things like that. And then it's also kind of the right size property for the building that we're looking to build for a retail and then also a work environment. And with our proposed structure, we think would fit nicely into that space as well. It's kind of...
I just lost audio on my end.
Andy? Yeah. Can you hear?
I could not hear, no. I can hear you.
Okay, well, everybody can hear me. You could hear me without the microphone in Florida.
Good, yes.
A little closer,
Do I
like
need to get
microphone.
closer? Okay.
I don't know, I just lost him, so maybe you just, thank you, sorry.
So we're proposing kind of a barn-type structure to be built on the property. We think would fit into the character of that area. And the retail would be of our products, mainly honey-related type products, yeah, like you see there. And also, we are starting to sell to the beginning beekeepers, so equipment and things like that to help supporting beginning beekeepers. I think our biggest challenge for the property is the zoning of the property. And we really feel strongly that we need to have it zoned commercial and versus residential with a variance to it. But if you have any questions.
Yeah, it is our custom to invite questions. So let me start by simply saying, some 20 years ago, we established this process of a concept presentation. The process is very fixed. The Plan Commission will conduct public hearings on any petition that comes before the village and their job is to create a record of decision through public hearings. And so their decision on the project, based on the information they gain in the hearings, is what forms their recommendation to the Board of Trustees. So they're like a trial court, and we're like an appellate court. We don't re-examine, we affirm or deny as appropriate. It's always useful for us to get a peek at what people are doing. I will use an extreme example to illustrate the point. If someone came in and said, we want to put an X-rated movie theater here, it's a good thing you do it, because I will fight you till hell freezes over, and then I'll fight you on the ice. So these are useful, but they have absolutely no bearing on the outcome of your petition, should you file one with the Plan Commission. It is useful, though, because if you are looking at a use that is clearly not compatible with our comprehensive plan and our vision statement of an oasis of gracious countryside living, you can factor that impression into your decision as to whether you want to go through the Planning Commission hearing process, which can be time-consuming and costly. So we welcome you here, and we're glad to have you express interest in this. Just don't leave here thinking that you've had anything decided, because that's the Plan Commission's job. Mr. Bateman, I get that right? Are you comfortable with me on that?
Yes, I am.
He's taken him 20 years. I'm a good enough lawyer to know I'm not a very good lawyer. So let me go around and ask the trustees. I'll begin with Trustee Andy Burke, who's actually dialing in because he chairs our Economic Development Committee. Andy, any questions you'd like to ask?
Actually, I'd like to back clean up if you don't mind. I've been close to this, so I'd rather not influence the board with my line of questions or comments. I'd rather hear what they have to say.
I'd be happy to. Then I will begin on my on the far right with Trustee Perkins, please.
Thank you, President Richardson. So you said it's on Pepper Road. Where exactly on Pepper Road?
It's 22375, which is the property just to the west of the corner of Pepper and Kelsey.
Okay. So,
The east.
Oh, I'm sorry.
East.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So Susie, if you're coming down from where our neighborhood
okay,
to Speedway, you would take a left on Pepper Road there. Doring is on the right.
yeah,
There's a residential property on the left that's been in disrepair for some time. That's the subject property.
That property.
Not the corner lot with the pond.
okay,
But the next lot over.
Yeah, sorry.
perfect. Okay, perfect. That's what, I was just wondering exactly where it was. And you'll sell products like this? You'll have your hives there as well?
We'll have some.
Some.
Yeah, they're scattered around. Yep.
But you will keep your main hives
Elsewhere.
near your,
Elsewhere.
yeah,
There'll be
okay.
maybe some there, but
Okay.
the majority won't be on the property.
perfect, okay. Well, good luck.
All right.
Yeah, that's neat. That's an awesome
We'd have
thing.
like an observation beehive for customers to see how it works.
Sure.
You know, but
That's interesting. That's great. Yeah. Good luck.
thank you.
Trustee Scheller.
Thank you, President Richardson. You said the building that you are anticipating constructing would be more like a barn?
It looked like a barn,
Yeah.
correct.
And how large?
Do you,
We have a big
did you get, did they get the?
Was it included? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, it's this. Oh, okay.
100 by 70, if I
It's this.
remember correctly?
Oh, okay. All right.
70 by 100.
Yeah, it's more rural, almost rural retail than it is a barn.
Correct.
Almost what it-
Pages 16 and 17 in the packet.
I got the picture of it, thank you. And the only reason, obviously, it's residential was that there's a house on it, but really that leads into the area that's pretty commercial anyway. No, I think bees are important to our entire growth of agriculture, so it's extremely important that, number one, we have bees, but then when you can find use for what they produce, like all that, I think it's phenomenal, and I think it would be a great attention. We had one time, didn't we have a beekeeper on the Fryer Farm?
We are them.
That's yours. Oh, okay.
Sorry, should have added that.
Yeah, right. Well, I've never gotten stung on the Fryer Farm. I don't know how you do it, so.
We only have nice bees.
They were always nice to me. So thank you. No, I wish you all the best, and I think it'd be a great addition to our community with the building itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Welcome, and thank you for being here. I always like to ask, what has attracted you to look at Lake Barrington?
Go ahead.
Well, okay. So we're in North Barrington is where we live. And most of our hives are, we have some in Lake Zurich, but a lot of them are more like centered around Kelsey Road and into Barrington Hills. So it's just like a perfect spot. It's right in the middle of where we need to be, going back and forth to hives, because with 130 hives, you're doing a lot of beekeeping work, so we need, right now we're doing it from our house, and we're still in the middle of things, but it just could be so much better, I guess, and it's very centrally located. And we have had bees on the property that we're talking about, and so it's, a regular place that we've gone back and forth to anyway, so.
And in addition to a physical presence, like a brick and mortar, or barn and mortar, I guess you call it, will you have an online
We will,
presence?
yep.
Nice.
We do.
We do. Our online is actually quite large. We do quite a bit online.
Excellent. Great.
And farmers markets. We'll probably continue to do the farmers markets, but we have a lot of our customers want to come to us, and coming into a residential area is kind of awkward for them and for everybody else. We do sell through ambrosia, some of our honey, but it's a very limited amount of products we sell. They sell a lot of honey, but we really needed to step forward and move forward. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Schallmoser.
Thank you, President Richardson. Welcome. Thank you for your ideas. Bees are very important to our ecosystem. They're a big shortage. What other products do you sell that you have competition with? Is there a concept in this zip code or town or two over that may serve as a headwind? Have you thought of that?
To be honest, actually, there's probably a desire for it. We have a lot of farmers markets wanting us to come. There's very few beekeepers, just 35 in the state of Illinois, that are large enough to produce enough honey to be able to sell it on the scale that we actually sell on. So, and to find local honey is very difficult. Most of the farmers markets in this area, actually, they come from Wisconsin down to sell it. So, I don't know if that answered your question.
So you
I actually think that there's not much competition.
So you'd envision yourself as a leader in this niche?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, with your experience, that would serve very useful.
We know, because there's only 35 of us in Illinois, we're very familiar with our competitors, so to speak, and there's nobody right in this area that is a competitor of us. In fact, the other ones that are, we're good friends with, and we support each other, because it's there really is actually, I think, more potential out there than we're even able to meet.
Wonderful. Well, I think your concept is right in line with our philosophy and values. Thank you.
Trustee Burke, I know you're familiar with this topic already, so let me yield to you.
Great, thank you. Karen and Brian, welcome. I'm sorry that you have to just keep hearing my voice and we haven't been able to meet yet. I certainly appreciate you guys taking advantage of this courtesy review to build on what President Richardson was saying. We encourage you to come, because what we're really gauging is, you're gauging the board's appetite for this type of use. And as you know, the devil's in the detail that will run through the Plan Commission. But it certainly sounds like, and I believed all along that this is very consistent with our brand image of an oasis of gracious countryside living. There are some truths to that lot that maybe people don't know as a residential lot, that as long as it's been sitting there, that it seemed not very likely that someone was going to come along and want to use that as a residential lot. So we've always thought the ideal opportunity would be someone with a very, very sort of soft commercial use that would blend nicely not only with our brand, but as you've already mentioned, beautifully with that setting there in the wetlands. What you guys are proposing could really take something that is that fallow and become something that's really quite beautiful and also practical. Because the other thing that we look at from an economic development standpoint is this an amenity that we believe our residents will value? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think people have a lot of interest in your products, and I also think people have a lot of interest in learning more about bees, and I can assure you my oldest daughter will be one of your first customers if and when you open, because she has just started her own hives last year and made her first attempt at that, and knows she has a lot to learn. So we welcome you, and I think there's a lot of excitement, and we look forward to continuing to work through the process. And at any time, just know we as a village, Sharon, myself, and everyone else is available to you. Our goal is to help make this process as easy for you and as fun for you as possible. So thanks again for taking the time to be with us, and we wish you success moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to bat cleanup here. I'm curious, just because this is an interesting endeavor, an interesting business. How did you become interested in beekeeping?
Yeah, I skipped over that part in my notes. But, I started beekeeping when I was about 12 years old.
Wow.
If any of you are familiar with the Detroit area, or Bloomfield Hills area, Cranbrook, is where I started beekeeping, was at Cranbrook. I actually taught classes in beekeeping at Cranbrook all through high school, I was known as the bee man through Seaholm High School and through college, and even took beekeeping classes at Iowa State. They don't have them there anymore, but they did when I was there. But it has always been an interest of mine. Horticulture, my parents said no to beekeeping, but you can do horticulture. So I did horticulture, and then it's come full circle back to beekeeping. So.
I'm going to get asked by my adult children, because they're into this. They don't do it, but they live in Northern Virginia, but they will look for products in places like this where they live. The soaps as much as the actual honey you put on a piece of toast. So African killer bees, they're a big problem for nice bees, right? And what's the latest on African killer bees versus the nice bees from Lake Barrington?
So the good news is the African honeybee can't overwinter in a cold temperate climate, so they will never come here. So they originally thought that they would interbreed with what we call the European honeybee, and that they would become a super bee. And so they were doing this experiments in South America, and a beekeeper came along and removed what are called queen excluders from the fronts of the hives, because it restricts the flow of the hives, but it kept the Africanized honeybees in the hives. By doing that, they escaped, and then they've slowly moved their way north, but they'll only be able to ever live. And they never integrated with the European honeybee. So the Africanized honeybees in the south are a real problem. They will attack a European hive, kill the queen, and overtake it. So yeah, they're still, but they never interbred with the European honeybee. So.
And when I will join the others in being a customer, and I look at the container of honey you have on the tray there. When I buy something like that currently at Jewel, how many bees does it take to make that?
A lot.
And how long does it take those bees to do that?
So one bee in its lifetime, she can make a teaspoon of honey.
Wow.
And they live about 6 weeks.
During the summer, yeah. But I have to warn you, the whole thing about local honey and knowing your beekeeper is so important, because a lot of the honeys that are sold in the grocery stores aren't really true honeys. And it's kind of a real problem in the United States. In fact, we've been working with the University of Pennsylvania on testing systems to determine if the honey is real or not. And they can do that by the pollens in the honey. Right. But I won't get it.
No, you mentioned...
come to the store.
Not only gardens, and certainly school children benefit from learning as much as the general adult public. You also mentioned butterfly gardens.
Yeah.
So a butterfly, this sounds like a butterfly and a bee go into a bar. I don't know, I'm on a roll tonight. Can they coexist proximate to each other without?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So a bee isn't going to go try to whack a butterfly?
No, there's plenty of forage for both, and also for all of the native bees and things like that too. And a lot of times native bees, bumblebees, are very specific to certain plants, and honeybees are not necessarily specific to those. And a good example is tomatoes are actually not pollinated by honeybees, but by bumblebees.
What's the difference between a honeybee and a bumblebee?
So bumblebee, Bombus americana, scientific name if you were wondering, is a big bee, black bee. But it's a vegetarian. All the bees are vegetarians. All your wasps and hornets are carnivorous. They'll eat anything and everything. They'll eat meat and things like that. Or other bugs. Or they'll eat honeybees. Yellow jackets attack honeybees.
Oh.
So like if you're at a picnic and a bee comes around, it's probably not even a honeybee. It's probably a yellow jacket, which looks very similar to a honeybee.
Oh, good to know. Okay. Well, thank you for indulging. Thank you for indulging me on this. I know the administrator is available to answer any procedural questions your council may have, along with Mr. Bateman, our village attorney, and we look forward to having you consider a petition before the Plan Commission.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for hearing us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been our pleasure.
Thanks.
Should I shut this off?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Heinen's has Wisconsin honey. You ought to be in Heinen's. No? Is it Wisconsin honey? It says Wisconsin honey.
See where it's packaged or where it was raised?
Yeah, because it could
There's a big
be,
difference,
Oh.
unfortunately.
Okay.
and it's not always easy to.
It's not easy to
tell.
determine. Unfortunately, honey is one of the foods that is easily adulterated and mixed around a lot.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks again. I'm going to call an audible here. We have a student from Barrington High School here. Vince, not to put you on the spot, but would you come up and introduce yourself? We're delighted you're here, and we want to hear about your project at school, and we want to make sure that we are as helpful to you as we possibly can. And hit the button in the middle if you would.
Hi there, I'm Vince Chukas. I go to Barrington High School, and I'm here because of my civics class. We have a sort of big project to do, and one of the potential ways to get points is by going to different meetings, like a school board meeting, or in this case, a village board meeting. And I basically just take notes and just kind of observe and make a reflection at the end. So I'm, glad to be here. This is very nice so far, so thank you.
Vince, other than having an academic requirement, and when I was at Fremd High School, there were still dinosaurs running up and down Northwest Highway, but it was a requirement, just like it's a requirement for you. Did you have other interests in this, or is it you're just meeting the need for the class?
No, I just kind of wanted to be here. I could probably just, you have to get picture evidence, so I could probably just snap a picture and leave, to be honest. I actually am very interested in, eager to learn more about what you guys have to say today. So.
Well, I do this in my day job, too. And I worked in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, and my older daughter works on Capitol Hill now, and I met my wife in the U.S. Capitol because we were both congressional staff. So, as you know, in our system, we have different levels of government. Mm-hmm. And this is local government. And our job is basically the things that affect people day to day. The roads are a good example, maintaining the parks and the tennis courts, making sure that police and fire protection are here to look after our citizens and their property. And then there's state government. Well, this is hard. I have to be objective about this. This is hard. States have different responsibilities. And then, of course, the federal government has additional responsibilities. We don't set American foreign policy on this board. Mm-hmm. That's done by Congress in conjunction with the administration. So we all have a role in this. I like to brag that we're the level of government that matters most because we touch people every day. Where do you and your family make your home? Where do your mom and dad and you live?
Well, technically, we are right on the border, and we technically live in unincorporated Barrington. Mm-hmm. But this is, the closest. And
but where's your house? Down off of Arch here, then?
Well, I mean...
Don't have to give me the address.
Yeah.
Just no, you don't have to do that, son.
It's like I don't know how to explain it. It's a golf course.
Oh, okay.
With big gates, and we're literally like a few houses down.
Okay, so. Well, we're delighted you're here. Please feel free to ask questions. One of the things we do, we're called trustees. And there's a reason. In law, a trustee is the person who is responsible to competently and effectively manage an asset or a resource that belongs to somebody else. Mm. So we are trustees because we are responsible to the taxpayers, the residents here who pay taxes, to safeguard their financial assets in the form of taxes paid to the village, and also to safeguard the value of their homes and their property, and safeguard, of course, their personal security and welfare. So I'm very proud of being in local government. It's the only part of government in America that seems to work anymore. Yes, that is a value statement, but if you look at the polling that some of the national polling organizations like Gallup or the others do, we are the one level of government that tends to be trusted. Now, in a small town like Lake Barrington, the challenge is, if you live in the city of Chicago, the chances of you being able to come in and talk to Mayor Brandon Johnson are pretty small. Mm. But in a small town, you can come in and talk to us anytime you want. And if you have questions as you work on your project, please reach out. I do a lot of this, and I enjoy it greatly, and I would be happy to help you in any way I can. And I'll just see if any of the trustees want to offer any words of encouragement. Trustee Perkins?
Get your notebook out. This is going to be a very riveting conversation this evening. So we handle some big thing. Just kidding. No, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's very nice so far, so thank you.
Trustee Scheller?
Thank you. I think it's important to note, I think that the Barrington School District is really focused on civic, because I participated with BACOG appearing at the middle school to a class, and a lot of it was civic-oriented. So I think it's a compliment to the school district, because I think growing up, civics, what's civics? You know, I had to go to school for civics. And unfortunately, I don't think many of the young people growing up probably knew who was president 10 years ago. So I think it's important to know government in one way, shape, form, or another. And as President Richardson said, this is one of the basic steps of government. And I think we're happy to be a part of letting you and other students know what it's all about, and trying to be responsive to that. So I've enjoyed the last couple of years at the middle school talking to a class, and they asked, how do I get things done? You know, and so it's important. I compliment you, and I appreciate you being here without taking a picture and leaving.
Yeah.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Thank you, President Richardson. What year are you at BHS?
I'm currently a junior.
Nice, nice. Well, I think you've been here at a great meeting to hear the Honey Lake Bee Company folks look at, you know, helping our economic development here. And we've had the pleasure of having other local businesses open here, so it's exciting that you're here to witness that. Hopefully you can visit that barn soon when they open
Yeah.
up. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Thank you. Thanks for coming. As you can see, we do some exciting things here, and take this along with you as you get older. When you graduate, you get a home, you'll know your biggest asset will be likely your primary residence, and you want to take care of that and get involved. And so it doesn't matter what background a person is, you could be a trustee. You don't even have to have any experience in government, just people that care. So I'm glad you could see this. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Burke from remote?
Yes, hi, and welcome. I'm just a voice coming from the rafters tonight, but glad that you could join us. And just a word of caution, I've been around President Richardson for a very long time, and I can already sense that he's looking to recruit you for something as it relates to Lake Barrington, and he's not ashamed to start recruiting very, very early for future board positions. So just know that you might be on his radar in the future. But thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And what I'm going to ask the board to do is we're all going to stand up here with you, and we'll have the clerk take a photo on your phone.
All right.
And that way, if the teacher wants to have documentary evidence, which would be reasonable, you will have it. So let's all run down there, and Rebecca, if you will please take his phone and take the photo.
Way over there. You want to see the middle?
Peggy, you can get in on this if you're her village officer, and you photograph a lot.
I can take the photo.
You're next.
Yeah.
Okay. Vince, the only bad news is you turn into Trustee Schaller and me. But other than that, you got a lot of years to go, so. I'd like to recognize Trustee Schaller for purposes of introducing another guest here this evening.
Well, I see in the back of the room a very important individual who's much involved in our community. He is the fire chief from the Wakanda Fire Department. Chief Kane, why don't you come on up and introduce yourself? I attend your meetings. I appreciate you coming to our meeting, but tell us what's happening with the Wakanda Fire Department.
Push the button.
Push the button.
I should have heard that. Thank you, John. Pat Kane is my name, Wakanda Fire Chief for the past few years. I apologize for not getting to your meetings. We have 9 communities that we protect, and I try to go to a lot of them, and I just haven't been able to get to you guys. But I said I got to come see my buddy John Schaller. So pleasure to see you all. If I can ever do anything for you, we at Wakanda Fire, please give us a call.
What's new and exciting?
Everything. It's just, everything is new and exciting, John. That's how I operate.
Chief, you're in a business that's hard to predict, right? I mean, because there are certain businesses that are pretty predictable, and then there are others that, like yours, that are not. And how has this job changed for you in the last 10 years? Whether you're at Wakanda or someplace else, how has the job of a fire chief changed?
Probably the basic part of the job is the same. I'm here to lead a group of men and women that protect 45 square miles of land and 9 towns, and our mission is simple. You call us, we come. We fix your problem. That's our goal and our promise to you. I don't have to tell this board the problems we all face. Most of them are financial, right? And now we have come to the realization that the young people, I might want to talk to you, Vince, before you leave, don't want to get into public service. So of late, the last few years, that is my biggest challenge, is trying to keep the men and women knocking on our door that want to join our organization. Never thought I'd ever have to say that, and I think the police can probably tell you the same thing. So that's the biggest challenge now, is getting young people involved in public service. So it's good to be here.
Amen. Amen. It's an honorable calling, and we appreciate your service and that of your force.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I have to say, Chief Kane, I've gone through a number of fire chiefs in Wakanda since I've been attending the meetings. Chief Kane is a team leader. He really involves all of the people in the department in the meetings and reporting, and that's a credit to your leadership.
Thank you, John.
So
I appreciate
it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for stopping by, Chief. God bless. Okay. Agenda item 6, this is the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. I see no one coming, and I'm going to go out of order and recognize the treasurer for purposes of introducing our guest from Bernardi. That way you don't have to sit here all night and listen to this. I only got 10 jokes, and you'll hear them all by the end of the evening.
I want to know if he loves it because he's now a parent of 3 girls at home, so maybe he's happy to be out of the house. I want to send him home to his wife as soon as possible. Yeah, so I told him to start saving for those weddings and college tuitions, but yeah. So tonight is the investment report, and I'm going to just lead off a little, lead off that here. I can't say much because I have a fact checker coming up behind me, so I don't want to misspeak. But you'll see I put together a report that starts on page 62 of your packet, where I sort of started on the first page. The big story this year is interest rates. Last year, as you know, it went from like 0.06%, jumped all the way to 4-point-something% in 1 year. So it wreaked havoc on the value of our bonds, which we, as you can see last year, December 31st, 2022, over the course of the year, we lost more value than we took in interest income. A lot of red numbers up there. As a contrary, this year interest rates remain relatively high all year. They moved a little bit from about 4.1% up high, almost to 5.2% over the year, kind of stable over the year. And you'll see that we earned interest income on the general fund of like $74,000, and we gained some of that value back we lost last year of almost $30,000. And then the water sewer fund, we had interest earned of $26,000, almost $27,000, and we gained back $22,000 in fair market value. So it was a very good year for us on the financial statements. We buy these bonds and expect to hold them, so I do, on the financial statements, have to recognize these gains and losses over the year, but we don't realize these losses. And so I think that's important for the board to recognize. We had a large loss last year on the books, but we didn't realize it, and it's turning around this year. Our goal is to buy and hold. We're not trading, and that's why I like these guys so much, because we buy at some really attractive rates, we hold them, and then until they come to maturity. So, and then you'll see there's just, I threw a bunch of numbers at you. This is just more for his history, but you'll see on your page 63, it gives the history of the general fund. We started out giving $700,000 to Bernardi back in 2015. Hard to believe it's been that long. I feel like I'm just still a youngster here. At the end of this year, we had almost $2 million in there. And some of that's we've added to it through more principal investment. We did take some out this year. We knew we were going to pay for some roads. I guess that was last year. And this year we took some money out of the fund, a little bit to pay for roads and so forth. And then the next page is just something that I do during the course of the year, kind of to follow the different parts of the investment account, and that's for the general fund. And then the following page, it starts again for the water sewer fund. You can see back in 2015, we put $500,000 in there, and currently we have about $1,374,000 at the end of 2023. I believe math reports go through the end of January, so if you see a little bit disconnect, it's because I finished up before he did, but basically everything's the same. The very last page of my report just shows the money in our bank account, and you'll see, and that's got about a five-year history. Our balances have come down a little bit over the years because we've been spending down our fund balance. So it basically came out of the Barrington Bank. And in there, you'll see how the interest rates at the end of 2023 were in the accounts for 5.4%. Way back at the end of 2021, just after the pandemic, before they started raising rates like crazy, they were at that 0.066%, which is almost like nothing. So things have changed around quite a bit. So that's my lead-in. And now Matt is here, and there's a presentation in your packet, which I do have copies. I'll pass them around, but it starts with your page 68. And he's going to work through that.
I've got mine in front of me digitally.
But I have our copies of the live one.
All good?
Thank you, Peggy. Thanks for having me this evening. So it's been about a year since I was here. It was another fun year in financial markets. Last year kind of was characterized as the inevitable recession that never materialized. This year is off to a similar start in that coming into this year, the market anticipated 6 or 7 Fed rate cuts. We've been going through this massive hiking cycle, higher rates the last 2 years. The opposite was supposed to happen last year and a lot this year, and it keeps on getting kicked down the road. One that's actually going to happen. Right now, the market's asset prices are pricing in a soft landing. That means that the Fed is going to land this plane without disrupting the passengers. What that means is the Fed's going to be able to cut rates without throwing off the economy, without the unemployment rate spiking or growth taking a big hit. So that's kind of what a soft landing is. And if you look at bond prices, stock prices, they're pricing the soft landing. The reason we haven't had that inevitable recession yet is primarily because the consumer is strong. The job market has been steady. The reasons for that, the two big elephants in the room, are Fed policy and fiscal policy. Fed policy has been very restrictive, very tight with all these rate hikes. They're selling their balance sheet down. That said, Fed policy has a lagging impact in the economy. Think of all the people, hopefully some of you, locked in low interest rates. You're not going to get hit immediately by these higher interest rates. Corporations did the same thing. There's also some arguments, if you look at specific metrics of Fed policy, that they weren't that tight, they weren't that restrictive until really
the spring of last year, even though they've been raising rates for almost 2 years, they haven't been that tight for that long. But really, in my opinion, the biggest impetus for why we haven't had this recession yet, what's offset all this, the Fed tightening, is the fact that fiscal spending has been massive. We're running a $1.5 trillion deficit last year, doing the same thing this year. That in the short term is stimulative. Medium to long term, there's different arguments, but certainly in the short term, that's stimulative, that's offsetting the Fed policy, and really what we have macro-wise is a push and pull between the Fed and the fiscal authorities, and that's just kind of allowed the economy to tread water and not experience rate cuts. That's important for this portfolio because it's very sensitive to what the Fed does from a rate perspective. It's short-term bonds that are highly reliant and priced based off of the Fed's funds rate, which is one of the main tools they use to stimulate or suppress the economy. So that's just kind of the macro setup of where we're coming in, what we kind of went through this last year. Don't know really what's going to happen the next year. If you have this presentation in front of you, just kind of a brief firm update, slide 2. Not much change at Bernardi.
Do you have your hard copy in front of you?
I do, yeah.
Just show it to us up there so we can match it.
Yeah.
And what's the title of the slide?
Unlocking Opportunities.
Okay. There we go. Thank you.
Bottom right, slide 2.
Page 69 in our packets.
Oh, okay. So no major changes at Bernardi. We continue to focus on our bread and butter, which is municipal bonds. Our assets are just under $1.8 billion, which is 90% in high-grade fixed income, all within separate account portfolios. So what you have is a separate account portfolio. That portfolio is customized to your parameters, your goals being liquidity, principal preservation, and then yield. And so what we do at Bernardi is all separate account portfolios, and no really major changes there. If you want to forward 2 slides to slide 4, page 4 of my presentation. It's
71 on ours.
71. It's important you know the options you have on our platform in terms of how you pay. You have 2 options at Bernardi. One is a fee-based option, where it's a set fee you pay every year based off of the assets in the accounts, or a transaction-based model, which is what the portfolios currently utilize. These are hold-to-maturity portfolios, as Peggy noted. The one-time transaction cost model which you use is typically more economical. Your costs that you paid last year on average were 13 basis points, 0.13. If you were on our fee-based model, it would be 25 basis points, 0.25, so more. It's my recommendation to stay on the current model, but it's important that you know the different choices that you have, and if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask. So in terms of the portfolio, if you go to the next slide, page 72 of your presentation, in terms of the current standing of the portfolio, and what it went through last year, it outperformed the Treasury bond benchmark over the last year. It has since the inception. So you've added value by embarking on this strategy versus just parking your money in T-bills over the last 8-9 years. The portfolio has a very short average duration and average maturity with a very high credit quality. As I said, those are the first 2 lenses that we're looking through before we buy a bond in your portfolio. Is it liquid, and is it high grade safe? And then the yield would be the second or third goal. The portfolio yields have increased significantly the last 2 years as the Fed has raised rates. They're up over 200 basis points, over 2%. So that's your average yield of the portfolio, and I'll get into some of these details in a bit. In terms of the outlook, municipal bond yields compare very favorably to CDs, U.S. Treasury bonds, so we'll continue to favor buying taxable municipal bonds that are used to finance essential purpose, essential revenue types of projects from other high-grade municipalities throughout the country, AA, AAA rated municipal bonds. U.S. agency securities are very attractive in yield as well. We like those, but only to a certain extent because they have a lot of call risk. No credit, not very minimal credit risk, but they have call risk. CDs are attractive for 1 year and in bonds, Beyond that, we don't find CDs attractive right now. And then the Fed, they're expected to cut rates this year by about 3 times. That will lead to lower buying rates that we're purchasing for the portfolio if that transpires. To page 73 of your presentation, this snapshots the composition of the portfolios, average rating being AA+, that's that first line, that is 1 notch below AAA. It's a very safe credit profile. In terms of the sectors that we're allocating to, you can see within 2 of the 3 portfolios, the general fund, GF, water and sewer, WNS, and then the MFT, they're primarily taxable municipal bonds. The MFT is now fully invested. It's actually only 14% municipal bonds, and that's just a function of its average duration.
Matt, I'll jump in on this. I appreciate you mentioning the bond rating. The only reason I believe, or the primary reason I believe we do not have a AAA is this board refuses to hold an obscene amount of our residents' money, which Wall Street otherwise seems to demand. It's a philosophical thing. We hold enough to be absolutely prudent, and God bless our treasurer, she makes sure of it. But we've all come to the conclusion that it's not our money. And we are willing to give up a little bit on the rating because we don't believe governments should hold more than they need. Now, I say that as a mayor in a small town. I have a radically different view than you alluded to it about what's happening at the federal level. There isn't a chance in the world we're paying $34 trillion because none of us can understand that money. That money. We can't understand it.
It's a lot of zeros.
It's inconceivable. No one can really understand that. You made a very astute observation, and I promise I will stop interrupting. At some day, the bill's going to come due.
You balance that, the duty to your taxpayers and your citizens with, maintaining a very high credit rating, which AA+. So you're nearly there. The U.S. government is AA+. You have the same rating as the U.S. government, and S&P is the rater on that. High exposure, high grade portfolio, high exposure to taxable municipal bonds, and then high level of liquidity, which is that ladder structure I've graphed on the bottom. The general fund has almost $850,000 maturing this year alone. You can see it's invested out about 2 years. It has the ability to go out 3 years. So as bond proceeds mature, we'll be rolling it over into the 2027 maturity ladder. Unless you need those funds, the water and sewer fund can invest out 5 years. And so we'll continue to roll that ladder forward. The concept of a ladder is that you own bonds every year going out a certain amount of years, and that's a way to diversify the portfolio as it pertains to the interest rate cycle. So if the Fed ends up cutting rates significantly, you'll be, in the water and sewer fund, you'll be glad you own some 3 and 4 year bonds. If they continue to keep rates higher, they go higher, you'll be happy you own 1 and 2 year bonds. It's essentially just not making a bet is what we're doing. Next slide is the performance. Last year and since inception, the portfolios have outperformed U.S. government benchmark. The last year performance of 4.72% is great in that we outperformed. It's also a great return. I'm most happy about it in that the return was primarily generated by interest that you're receiving on your bonds and the yields that you own, rather than price appreciation because interest rates are going lower. And that paired with the fact that we're buying a lot of 5% yielding bonds for the portfolio now, that portends good returns, similar returns, at least for the next 2 or 3 years as well. The reason the 3 and 5 year returns are low, they're better than the benchmark, but they're nominally low, is a function of what the Fed has done the last couple years by raising rates, but also the fact that we are buying 1 and 2, maybe 3% yielding bonds. So you're capped in your returns in that. Today we're buying 4.5, 5, 5.25 yielding bonds, which should lead to similar performance this year and the next 2 or 3 years. If you go to the next page, slide 8 of my presentation, this kind of recaps the increase in yields the portfolios have experienced the last 2 years. The general fund had an average yield of just over 1% at the end of '21. It had an average maturity then around of a year. The one-year treasury was 26 basis points at the end of 2021. That's right before the Fed started to raise rates. The general fund now has an average yield of 3.6. And so if yields stay high or go higher, that average is going to get to the 4.5–5%. So let's hope the Fed doesn't cut too aggressively this year. The motor fuel tax fund is now fully invested, and the average yield on it is 5%.
For the benefit of our student who's here tonight, Vince, because we are dealing with other people's money, we're not investing as individuals or for-profit corporation. We're investing for other people, our taxpayers' money. We are limited as to what we are allowed to invest in because there's no tolerance for risk. Capitalism is great when it's going up. It's not so much fun when it goes down. And so we have to be a lot more careful about what we invest in. We are limited by law from the state of Illinois as to what we can do. So his job is really important because we have a very narrow range that of options for investing our taxpayer funds. And so his job is to get the most out of the acceptably low-risk investment tools, and that's how he gets paid, is to help us get the most and still be very, very conservative and protective of the money of the people who pay the taxes to the village. Did I get that right, Treasurer Hirsch?
Yeah, it's a prudent cash management strategy to maximize the yield on your cash while not taking undue risk and keeping it in high-grade assets. And also, there's the aspect of diversifying it across the short end of the yield curve. You could keep all your money in the bank. The bank's paying a nice rate right now. But if we go into a recession...
Short end of the yield curve for his benefit.
Short end of the yield curve is measured in time. So bonds that mature sooner rather than later. So 6-month bonds, 1-year bonds, 2-year bonds, that's the short end as opposed to 10, 15, 20-year bonds. And when the Fed's one of the two major ways they set policy is by the Fed funds rate, which has almost 100% correlation with the front end of the yield curve. So the village could keep all this money in the bank at 5.4%, but if we go into a massive recession like we do every 8, 9, 10 years, that rate will go down likely significantly. And that rate during the Great Financial Crisis and during COVID was 0.
It's on a 4-something now, by the way.
Oh, it's 4 something? Okay. So who knows what the future holds, but of what we went through the last 30 years, every time we get into a crisis, that rate goes down to 1%, 0%, and you wish you had bought that 3-year bond at 5%. And so we're diversifying in case of that scenario. That's another aspect of the approach. There's a graph on slide 9 of the different yields that we're looking at. Generally, the red bar is the most attractive. That's taxable municipals. The light green is very attractive as well. That's U.S. agency securities. So that's implicitly backed by the U.S. government. But those have a lot of call risk, so you don't want to own too many of those. Lastly, if I could just skip ahead to the last slide, and I can hold it up. It's a default rate chart, historical default rate chart of municipal bonds. Looks like this. Just want to leave you with the thought that you're in very good hands within municipals. AAA rated municipal bond default rate over the last 51 years is 0. The AA rated default rate basically rounds to 0. So the high exposure to taxable municipals is still a very high grade and safe asset class, really, no matter what the economic picture holds for us. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Outstanding report. Let me go around and query trustees for any questions they may have. Trustee Burke, since you were batting cleanup last time, last issue, you want to start with any questions for our guest?
Happy to. Thanks for being there, and a great report. And no questions, just really excited that we took a major step many years ago and decided that we need to be more aggressive in the way we managed our money. And market markets have been soft, and there's been a stretch where none of us were earning anything on these types, but now we're seeing the payoff. And as Treasurer Hirsch said, this is real money, and I couldn't agree more with her. So thank you for your part that Bernardi does to help us manage this in a thoughtful and responsible way.
Thanks. One of the great good fortunes this community enjoys is that we have remarkably talented residents who give of their time. So I'm going to call on a Merrill Lynch Senior Vice President, who also is Trustee Schallmoser in his village job, for any questions or comments you have.
Thank you, President, and thank you for your thorough review. On page 8, on the general fund, the average maturity is 94.94 years. If fresh money comes in, will you diversify across the various years? Looks like a maximum of 3 years, or would you buy overweight 3-year paper? Do you have that ability?
Yeah, we'd be
because of where we are on the yield curve?
Yeah, we'd be overweighting 3-year paper. We wouldn't want to see the average maturity to get over 1 3/4 or 2 years, but there's always going to be bonds maturing every year, especially as you just took money out of that fund. Mm-hmm. We always want bonds coming due every year. You took money out without having to sell anything, that's always the goal. Mm-hmm. So that liquidity, that ongoing cash flow, and making sure that every rung of that 3-year ladder has exposure, mm-hmm. Okay. That will be the objective.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Trustee Van Ryn.
I have no questions, but thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Trustee Scheller.
I'm just grateful that we have Bernardi and we have a treasurer that is keeping us financially sound. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Trustee Perkins.
Thank you for the great report, and no questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
We wanted you to be able to go home. The other thing, and I'm older than dirt, Vince, so this comes from a different perspective, but when you graduate and you go out into the business world, note how Mr. Bernardi is dressed. He's wearing a sport coat and a shirt and a tie, and people are going to say, you don't have to do that anymore, everybody's casual. Nonsense. I want the guy handling my money to look like this, somebody who's dressed ready to play baseball. So it's not so much a compliment. Obviously, you were trained to do that, but kind of a lesson. So 20 years from now, when you're interviewing for a job and you get it because you brought your A game, remember that crazy old man in Village Hall in Lake Barrington who told you that's the way it really works. So, thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much.
I'm getting wistful. Okay. That's right. That's right. I had a wonderful old boss years ago who said casual Fridays was the beginning of the end of Western civilization. Agenda item 6 is the first opportunity for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. There is no one here from the public seeking such recognition, so we'll move to agenda item 7, the consent agenda. I'll yield to the administrator for any comments she wants to make.
I don't have any comments this evening. Thank you.
So 7A, consideration of an award for contract to Landmark Roofing. We spoke about all these things in the committee of the whole. B, consideration of a resolution reallocating the 2024 volume cap. C, consideration of an award contract to Geske and Sons in the amount of $718,703.23 for street resurfacing. D, consideration of a professional services agreement with H.R. Green in the amount of $35,969.00 for the 24 roadway resurfacing program. E, consideration of a resolution supporting intergovernmental agreement between Barrington Township, Cuba Township, and the Village of Lake Barrington to provide for a local rideshare agreement with PACE for senior and handicap bus service. Any questions from the trustees on the matters we discussed in committee of the whole pursuant to the consent agenda? There being none, Chair would like a motion to consider in block. Vince, when we do this, you will hear me say, or any mayor say, or council leader say, consider in block. It means we do them all at the same time. That way we're not doing 6 or 7 votes individually. Saves time, more efficient. May I have a motion to approve in block agenda items 7A through E as set forth in the agenda?
So moved.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you both. Trustee Scheller, Trustee Perkins, thank you both. And clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
And President Richardson?
Yes, thank you very much. Get my pages confused here. Chair would like to recognize the treasurer for her report, please.
Hope you're not tired of hearing from me tonight, but this is the end here. So before you have the financial statements for the 9 months ended January 31st, 2024. So we're about 3/4 through our fiscal year. This is actual numbers, so we've talked earlier during committee of the whole about sort of expected actual. This is where we actually are for the 9 months ended January 31st. So we have total assets of $3,511,000. We have liabilities of $515,000, and equity is at $2,996,000. Total revenue is $3,843,000, and we have expenses at $4,401,000 for a net loss of $558,000. We compare that to last year, and our net income at this point was $741,000. What we do to compare those on a more accurate basis, we pull out sort of the larger unusual expenses, which is mostly road work, and in some cases that was extra revenue from the ARPA money and so forth. We pull those unusual items out. We have a regular operation net income of $610,000 compared to last year of $935,000. So still a substantial loss. Most of that is being driven between this year and last year as we have some expense categories that have run higher. We've talked about this each month, nothing's really changed. Engineering services are higher than last year, legal's higher than last year, consultants are higher than last year, and police and waste disposal are higher than last year. Fortunately, that's been a little bit tempered by interest income, which is much higher than last year, so it's offset those amounts, for at least by $100,000. So that's been very helpful. We'll flip forward to my page 1314, I'm not sure what page it is in your report. I should probably start writing that down so I won't keep confusing you. But it's our budget to actual report. And you'll see that our revenues are at 79% budget to actual. So as a total category, we're running very close to expected to the budget. Expenses are running at 73% actual budget. So once again, as a total, they're very close to expected. When we drill down in some of the specifics, you'll see utility tax is running a little bit low. Natural gas is at an all-time low apparently, so our tax on that is lower than last year. Franchise fees are coming in at 48% actual budget. We'll get 2 more of those this year, so not concerning, but a little bit below our 75%, which you would think at this point. And then the items that I mentioned earlier about being higher than last year, they're also higher than budget. Our building department consultant is higher, legal's a little bit higher than budget. Those numbers are pulling up our total numbers somewhat, but nothing, there's nothing I haven't mentioned before, nothing that's really concerning. I just pointed out because it's running a little ahead of budget for this year. Page 15, we do this once a quarter. We summarize by vendor, our non-MFT road expense. So you can see on that page, by far our largest vendor this year has been Arrow Road Construction Company because they did the 2023 road program, and they've received about $1,566,000 this year. Chicago Land Paving is coming in second. They did the Hillside repair improvements this past year, and they are coming in at, of course I don't have my glasses, that number is really small, $387,000. I feel like I'm doing an eye test, but you have that in front of you. Kiewit Township, they've done some patching and culvert replacement and those types of things at $23,000 for the year. We've paid them almost $120,000 for their contract. We have that monthly contract of $13,321 paid each month. Just some little numbers now. During just the snow plowing on the Pepper Park sidewalks, they're $3,110. Geske and Sons, that was a late payment, well, not late payment, it was a final payment for 2022 road program of just $2,500. And then some little things here, there was a Kirby Cable Service, they did some boring over at the entrance to Wedgewood subdivision, that's $2,350. And then Lake County and the State Treasurer, those are both for signal maintenances, $613 for Lake County and $2,701 for State Treasurer for IDOT. Any questions on anything in the general fund? That's pretty much all I have for the general fund. Okay, move on to motor fuel tax fund. That's on the next page. You'll see we have current assets in there of $362,000. As we've been discussing, we're going to hold on to that money this year and next year and build roads the following year with that money. So the only thing to mention in this fund at this point, in January, we did invest in Bernardi, a lot of our cash from the Barrington Bank. Since we're going to hold that money for almost 2 years, I discussed this with Trustee Hayes, and he thought it was a good idea to lock in some rates in case interest rates do come down. So it's not really, it's just a hedge against rates. We could have kept it in the Barrington Bank, but that was something that's happened in January. But it was in Matt's report because he carried out his report a month past mine. Mine didn't hold it, but that was the difference. Okay, so we can move on to the water sewer fund, which starts with my page 22, I believe. Yep, there it is. And you can see in this fund, we have about $1,755,000 what I'll call current assets, but that's money used for any future repairs that we don't make up in the actual revenue during the year. So, and there's nothing unusual to mention in that fund this month. There was one item to mention on the warrant, and that is for the water sewer fund, and that's DOMER, D-O-M-E-R, for $7,363, and that's for the repair of the PRV valve at the water plant. Don't ask me what that is, but, and that was really the only unusual expense. It's a rather light month for the warrants because, as you recall, last month's meeting was rather late, so it picked up a lot of the expenses. We had to have certain things last year, so we had none of those items this month, so the warrant is lower than usual, which is kind of nice. So any questions on anything that I presented tonight?
Are there questions for the treasurer? Thank you very much, as always. Then Chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 8B through D. B, approve the financial statements as of January 31, 2024. C, pay bills in the amount of $212,336.47 as listed on the accounts payable warrant A, dated March 5, 2024, and D, pay bills in the amount of $113,421.28 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B, dated March 5, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Trustee Schalmos, may I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Van Ryn. Thank you both very much, and you can get the next one.
No problem.
Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
And President Richardson?
Yes, ma'am. Agenda item 9, and I'm going to give this to Sharon to remind her.
I've already got it printed out.
Thank you, ma'am. The administrator's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I actually have 2 items this evening. The first item is we have a tentative schedule together for the RFP for the water and sewer study. We are looking to have it issued either March 8th or March 15th, depending on timing and getting it in the paper. So for now, I'll give you the dates with the March 8th and move forward from there. The pre-bid conference would be scheduled for March 14th. The deadline to submit questions would be on March 21st. The deadline for proposals would be April 12th. And then the village board approval would be May 7th. If everything did get moved back a week, we would still be on schedule and having it for village board approval at the May 7th meeting. The second item I have this evening is the Vietnam-era veteran ceremony that is being put on by the veterans of LBS.
And this comes from our dear friend and our former colleague trustee, Jim Thompson.
Yes. Being put on by the veterans of LBS and the Daughters of the American Revolution. This is going to be, they're announcing their annual Vietnam-era Veterans Ceremony, which is going to be held on Tuesday, March 19th from 10 a.m. to noon at the Lodge at the Shores and Lake Barrington Shores. We do have it on our Facebook page and on our village board on our website as well. And that's all I have this evening.
Questions for the administrator? All right. Agenda item 10, the clerk's report.
Just really quickly, just early voting again, that is going to be, it's going on currently, so March 4th to March 16th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays. And then day of voting is March 19th, so that is no longer, early voting stops before that, so just make sure we are a voting site, and we'll be here from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Marvelous, thank you very much. Agenda item 11 is report of the standing committees. 11A, branding and comms. Trustee Van Ryn.
Thank you, President Richardson. One item from me tonight, I typically update you on our LinkedIn progress, and I'm proud to report we had our biggest growth month ever. Over the last 30 days, we've gained 14 followers, so we're just shy of 200. And so it's really exciting to see.
Why do you think we've gotten that nice addition?
I think the content. We've had some really good posts, like early voting, things that are affecting our residents. They love visually based posts as well, when we posted pictures from our cocoa crawl, for example. Rebecca and I were just talking about Facebook has seen a lot of traffic as well, so it's good to see our residents utilizing our social media. Thank you.
Okay, 11B, economic development. Trustee Burke.
Outside of Honey Lake B being in tonight, which is a big part, I really don't have much of a report. A lot of things happening out there that aren't fleshed out enough to share with you guys tonight, but I kind of want to take this opportunity to thank Sharon for her work in picking up the slack, particularly in my absence down here in Florida. She takes a lot of meetings and calls and things on my behalf. And jumps in and does a great job helping us on the economic development side. So thank you, Sharon, for your support at that end, and that's really all I have.
Terrific, thank you. 11C, external relations, just a couple of things. I'll forward this to everyone. I'll forward it to the administrator overtly and then blind copy everyone. I reported, we met before committee of the whole this evening, Sharon and I, and the treasurer and the village attorney, we all met with our IT managed service provider about cyber. And I'm going to forward to you, and actually this is a good report for you to kind of hear. At the federal level, you know, and at the state level, we have three branches co-equal. In the U.S. Congress, in the U.S. House of Representatives, there are two kinds of committees: standing committees and select committees. Standing committees have jurisdiction over a particular topic area and a corresponding federal cabinet department. So the Committee on Agriculture has jurisdiction, oversight, and budget authorization over the Department of Agriculture. The Armed Services Committee over the Department of Defense, so forth. Then there are select committees. This is not quite the academic formal explanation, but here I've worked in and around Congress for 40 years, so this is kind of a reasonable summary. Select committees are created for the purpose of examining important topics. They do not have authority to really move legislation. That belongs to the standing committees, but select committees are populated with members who are assigned to really look with a different set of eyes to a key issue. One of the select committees that was created when the current Congress was sworn in about 14 months ago is a new one. And the name of the committee is the Select Committee on the Strategic, and this is on the House website, house.gov, the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. And the chair of it is a Republican member of Congress from northern Wisconsin named Mike Gallagher, and the ranking minority, the senior Democrat, is a suburban Chicago area member of Congress from a district just south of here, Raja Krishnamurthy, and they do a lot of work together. We talk about how bitterly divided Congress is, and it certainly is, but on this issue of China /Russia /Iran /North Korea, there is tremendous bipartisan cooperation, both in the House and the Senate in both parties, and then between Congress and the Biden administration. They are doing and I reported on my pet peeve, TikTok, last month. Chairman Gallagher and Ranking Member Krishnamurthy are holding a press conference tomorrow on legislation to protect Americans from foreign adversary-controlled apps, including TikTok. Americans are struggling to really come to grips with this issue. It's a serious issue. You're a young person, so this is especially serious for young people. And I spent a lot of time, I was in the United Kingdom last week on other business, but I got to meet with 5 different mayors. They call them council leaders. And they have the same cross-party cooperation on this. Without being alarmist, I'm alarmed. So I'm going to send the press release for it. These are all links on the committee website that you can watch them. And it's a serious matter. And we met today with our managed service provider, and we talked about what we do now and what do we need to do to up our game. And it's something that is real serious. The treasurer was, as always, very, very helpful in identifying issues that sure went over my head in terms of potential areas of vulnerability. And this is going to be, now that Trustee Hayes has, God bless him, stepped up to lead the digitization project, I'm going to be able to work on this. And it's something I do with the company that is my client, that is Teresa's, Trustee Ben Ryan's employer. This is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. I'm going to ruin your evening by telling you, if you have TikTok on your phone, you really need to take it off, son. God bless you. God bless you. It was fun to meet with the British mayors. They have the same problems we do, and these are all towns about the size of ours. See how familiar this sounds. They worry about roads. They worry about flood control. They worry about economic development. So it's always great to see how others do it. Now, they're a parliamentary democracy model. We're a presidential democracy model, and that even affects how local governments, how they pay for stuff, how they tax and give revenue is much different than ours. They do have a council tax, which is a rough equivalent to our property tax, but they have to give money to the central government. So it'd be like we raise the money and then we had to send a check to Washington.
The church.
Yes, exactly right. So I worked on that. I'm going to be meeting with Congressman Krishnamurthy's chief of staff on Friday of this week. And I hope to get him to maybe speak to by Zoom to BACOG or some of the others, because this is a very, very important issue. So the end of my report and my diatribe, but please know that this is real important. And the terrible temptation is none of us want to believe it's true. It's not going to happen to us. And, your employer, Merrill Lynch, the security measures they take to safeguard their operations, or your employer, Zebra Technologies, This is as serious as a heart attack. And they want your data because they want to add it to the generative AI, Vince, so they can continue to build models to influence opinion in a way that is not helpful for our democracy. So, sorry, I had to get it off my chest. I feel better. We can move to report 11D, Finance, HR, and Administration, and the administrator's going to report for Trustee Hayes.
Yes, thank you, President Richardson. We have a schedule from Chalmers Street, who is working on our building permit digitization project. We're also going to be working with them on having Lake Barrington Shores feed into this process. We will have probably an April-May timeframe for the soft launch and the actual launch. We'll have a better update for you next month. And we are going to be on Monday afternoon interviewing for our accountant position. That's all I have. Thank you.
11E, Roads and Infrastructure, Trustee Schulman.
Thank you, President Richardson. Nothing really new to report. We're considering an award contract to Geske & Sons out of Crystal Lake for the south half of Barrington Harbor Estates. They came in at $718,703 for the 2024 street resurfacing program, and pleased to note that we originally budgeted for over $886,000, so that is well under budget. Very happy about that, and as we begin to repave our roads this season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 11F, Public Safety, Trustee Schaller.
Thank you, President Richardson. Well, we heard from Chief Pat Kane from the Wakanda Fire Department. I was out of town, so I did not attend the Barrington countryside, but I understand everything's under control. I'll call Lieutenant Couric up. Interesting enough that the comments you made about security and cybersecurity, I gave Lieutenant Couric an email that I got, long email that said someone had total control of my emails. But they never did anything that I'm aware of. But it's interesting that even an individual is susceptible to getting attacked cyber-wise, and probably the best advice is don't click back on it, because chances are once you do, they really do have control. But boy, I got a feel for a lot of anyone, seniors especially, who see things like this and react the way those who are threatening want us to react. So as I said, I passed it along to Lieutenant Couric, just perhaps from the county to be aware of something that's going on, but it is amazing, just as you point out.
They want your behavior.
Yeah.
That's why they might want to steal your money too, but they really want to know your behavior.
Yeah.
So they can craft messaging. It's the gentle nudge. It's the constant nudge to influence. And if you look at the demographic data by age group on the Middle East, it's the TikTok generation that has been the least favorable to Israel because that's been part of an ongoing plan. And it's real. So they want to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
They want to steal your money too, but they really want
they also
want to know what you're doing.
Know what you're doing. So, Lieutenant Couric, what's happening in the county other than decks getting hurt?
Well, it's funny you should speak about the scams, but coming out of Lake Barrington, I do see those kinds of reports coming across all the time, not just Lake Barrington, but everywhere in the county. Just different ways that people try to steal your money. They influence you. They get you to take pictures, send pictures to them, then they hold your pictures for ransom and make threats, kind of like what the email said that you gave me. But please be aware, your best bet is just to delete these emails, don't click on anything, and just let it dissolve back into cyberspace where it came from. So, other than that, not any major events in Lake Barrington. But as the weather does get warmer, there'll be more activity outside during the day, more activity outside during the night. And I'll just always go back to the common phrase, if you see something, say something, because we can't do this alone. We need everybody's help, all the citizens of Lake Barrington. don't ever think that you're putting us out. We absolutely need your help. If you see something, please say something and call right away. We'd be happy to come and, discover something that, would be good to find, rather than 2 hours later, finding out that if we could have been there to stop something or whatever it may be. So please give us a call. We're happy to come out. If it turns out to be nothing, it's not a big deal. We're just happy to come and help.
One other item, we all think this is a safe area. Lake Barrington Shores is a safe area, but it experienced $16,519 worth of damage in the last couple of months, and Detective McCracken and the Lake County Sheriff's Department is trying to pursue and investigate it. But they damaged street lights at 3 intersections, bridge and a walkway fence, spray painted a light fixture, and LBS now was going to have 2 speed cameras. If you come into LBS and go down the street, you will see a thing that says it's 20 miles an hour, but you'll see a thing that says what your speed is. Unfortunately, you think you've arrived at that and you've reduced your speed and you speed up right after you go after that machine. It actually records you right after you went at it. They've given out almost 400 speeding tickets in the last 4 months at a pretty good clip. The revenue source is amazing. So with the money that we made on a 1-speed thing, they bought another one. Well, this theft and destruction took care of the second camera at a total cost of $15,000. So
So it's someone from within.
we believe. The Sheriff's Department's investigating it. You talk about visual cameras and set of eyes. Again, as Lieutenant Kirk said, if you see anything unusual, report it. We got to believe somebody saw something unusual. We don't know if they reported. You're trying to look at as well any video on Ring cameras or things like that. There are certain restrictions on putting in cameras outside our units if they're aimed at another unit. But other than that, we encourage people to put in more surveillance as well as that. But yes, we live in a gated community that we believe is safe, but anyone you never know. So we believe we haven't had anything most recently, but this happened in the last couple of months. So it can happen in your neighborhood too. And we appreciate the Sheriff's Department being involved in trying to find out the perpetrators and take care of it from that point on. But thank you for everything.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Lieutenant, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. 11G, Open Space and Special Events, Trustee Perkins.
Thank you very much, President Richardson. I've been working with Sharon and with Rebecca, both on the summer concerts, which we're going to rename to Sunset Serenades. It will be the third Thursday of June, July, and August from 6:30 to 8:30. We have our bands all booked. Sharon's all over it. And so June 20th, we have the Abby K Band. July 18th, Industrial Drive. And August 15th, we have our very own Mark DeMonico and his band, the Northern Revival, that will be with us. So those will be some fun Thursday nights throughout the summer. Barn Stomp now we have it booked for October 5th. And let's see, we will have No Filter, which we had last year, which was really great. It's a group of some Barrington area parents. So there are a lot of fun. It's a nice, fun band. So we're going to do October 5th from 4 to 8. So put that on your calendars. and we have a lot of changes and some new things. We're going to switch some things up and shake it up a bit, so stay tuned for those updates. We're kind of still working on those. It's very secret. Just kidding. But yeah, stay tuned for that, and that is all I have. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. One thing, because we're going to be able to adjourn in about 60 seconds. I don't do this often enough. I want to recognize Allie Cruz, our videographer. This is an important job because, and it has to be done well and right because we need to record for legal purposes and for posterity these proceedings. You're always on time, you're always cheerful. You're very kind in letting me practice my Spanish with you. And we can rely upon you to just do an excellent job, and we don't say thank you often enough, and I want to make sure that we say thank you.
Yes.
We're grateful for that.
Muchas gracias.
And I can get a unanimous vote on that. I can get a unanimous vote on that, I'm very confident. Thank you, Ally, and we hope that you'll continue to stay with us and be part of the team. Thank you. Agenda item 12, old business, there is none. 13, ordinances. 14, resolutions, none. 15, new business, none. 16, second opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board. No one seeks recognition. There is no need for a closed session, right? No other business. Chair would like a motion to adjourn. By Trustee Scheller, may I have a second? Second. By Trustee Perkins, let me write that down. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. We are adjourned.